Clint Eastwood, born Clinton Eastwood Jr. on May the 31st, 1930, at the St. Francis Hospital in San Francisco, California. Clint was raised in a middle-class family, but during the Depression years, they were like most families, moving a lot in search of work. Clinton Sr. moved his family from Piedmont, California, where he had met Clint's mother, Margaret Ruth Runner, when they were still in high school. Now this is Clint Jr. and Clint Sr. 4 years after Clint's birth in 1934, his younger sister Jeannie was born. They called her Jean. Jean will grow up and have 3 children of her own. Although she'll avoid the spotlight, she'll maintain a close relationship with her parents and also her famous brother. Jeannie Eastwood Bernhardt made her home in Carmel, California. When Clint was around 9 years old, his family moved back to Piedmont. Here he is holding a pet. He went to Piedmont Junior High, but ended up at the Oakland Tech High in Oakland. After leaving high school, Eastwood had several jobs, such as lumberjack, forest fighter in Oregon, and steel worker in Seattle. In 1950, he was drafted into the Army and stationed at Fort Ord in California. He was a swimming instructor. On a return trip after visiting his family on leave, he caught a ride back to Fort Ord on a Navy torpedo bomber. The plane developed engine trouble, and they had to ditch in the waters off of San Francisco coast. Eastwood and the pilot had to swim more than a mile in the dark to shore. He said, "Sure, I thought I was going to die, but I didn't." After he was discharged in 1953, he attended Los Angeles City College, studying drama on the GI Bill. It helped him land a few unaccredited bit parts. Now, during the same year in 1953, Clint will meet Margaret Johnson on a blind date. Clint and Maggie, as she's called, will marry some 6 months later on the 19th of December 1953. Maggie was working at an auto parts company, and Clint was struggling as a part-time actor. He also took part-time jobs to help out. One was digging swimming pools. He auditioned for several parts without success. Finally, director Jack Arnold gave Clint a small part in Revenge of the Creature. His part was shot in 1 day. Eastwood and Maggie moved into an apartment at Villa Sands at 4040 Arch Drive, just off of Ventura Boulevard. And by 1955, Clint had managed to get a contract with Universal Studios for $75 a week. One of his first accredited movies was Francis in the Navy, with Francis a Talking Mule. He played a sailor by the name of Jonesy, starring Donald O'Connor. Next year in 1956, Eastwood was fired from Universal. It's been said that the director didn't like the mole that was above his upper lip. Actor Burt Reynolds said that they were both fired on the same day. He said that they told Clint that he talked too slow, and he had to get that chipped tooth fixed, and that his Adam's apple stuck out too far. Burt asked, "Well, why are you firing me?" And they said, "You can't act." And as they walked back to Eastwood's truck, Reynolds told Clint, "Boy, you're in trouble. I can learn how to act, but you'll never get rid of that Adam's apple." Being dropped from Universal, Clint went back to digging swimming pools and back to acting classes. Eastwood continued to audition for parts that mostly never materialized. He'd get small parts on weekly TV westerns sometimes, such as Maverick, Wagon Train, and Death Valley Days, and others. His biggest screen role to date was as an ex-renegade Confederate in Ambush at Cimarron Pass that starred Scott Brady. Eastwood said it was the lowest point of his career and said it was the worst Western ever made. He even considered quitting acting after he watched the movie. Eastwood's agent, Bill Sheffrin, told Clint that CBS was casting an hour-long Western and that he should check it out. Eastwood was at the CBS canteen talking with a lady that he knew that was a story director when studio executive Robert Sparks spotted Clint and thought that he looked like a cowboy. A screen test was arranged, and a week later, Clint got a call from his agent informing him that he had won the part of Rowdy Yates on TV's series Rawhide that starred Eric Fleming. Filming on Rawhide began in Arizona in the summer of 1958. And by 1960, Eastwood was making $750 per episode. Although Clint and Maggie continued living frugal, they bought a hillside ranch in Sherman Oaks. Now this is Maggie and Clint in their backyard at Sherman Oaks in 1960. Filming was 12 hours a day, 6 days a week to begin with, but directors never scheduled Eastwood's scene first, knowing that he'd be late, and some said even a little lazy, giving us a glimpse of what Eastwood's later style of directing will be on his own films, where no one went to work before 9 a.m. and usually quit early. Most scenes were shot in 1 or 2 takes. During the second year on Rawhide, Eastwood becomes involved with actress Roxanne Tunis, who was a regular extra and a stunt woman on the show. The romance was well known on the Rawhide set, and on June the 17th, 1964, Roxanne and Clint had a daughter, Kimber Tunis Eastwood, who will grow up to be a producer and makeup artist. Eastwood will ask his wife Maggie for a divorce, but soon after she became ill and was hospitalized with severe hepatitis. Clint and Maggie will reconcile, although he will continue his romance with Roxanne for the next 15 years, until 1975. In 1964, Clint Eastwood will be offered a part that will make him a world superstar. During a break from filming Rawhide, he'll travel to Spain to do what will become known as spaghetti westerns with a little-known director, Sergio Leone. Several actors were offered the part before Clint, including his co-star of Rawhide, Eric Fleming. A fistful of dollars was only the beginning. The next year, in 1965, he will return to Europe and do for a few dollars more. And then in 1966, it'll be The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. For the first couple of years, the movies will only be distributed in Italy with voiceovers. But in 1967, they'll be distributed in the United States. And soon, the 34-year-old actor will be in full demand. On 19 May 1968, Clint and Maggie will have a son, Kyle Eastwood, and Kyle will inherit his father's love for jazz music. After celebrating Kyle's birth, Clint will form his own production company called Malpaso Productions. His first film that year will be Hang 'em High with Ingrid Stevens. Also that same year, it'll be Coogan's Bluff with Susan Clark. In '68, he'll play second fiddle to Richard Burton in Where Eagles Dare. In 1969, Eastwood will star with Lee Marvin and Gene Seberg in the comedy Paint Your Wagon. It'll be one of Marvin's best movies. But 10 years after making Paint Your Wagon, Gene Seberg will be found dead in the back seat of an automobile wrapped in a blanket at the age of 40. Her death will be ruled possible suicide. possibly caused by FBI harassment under J. Edgar Hoover. The FBI, after Hoover's death, trying to make amends, admitted that Hoover ordered Jean's phone tapped and false stories planted in Hollywood gossip magazines that she was pregnant with the Black Panther leader's baby instead of her husband's, because she had donated money to the Black Panthers and NAACP during the 60s civil rights movement. Her baby was stillborn, and she blamed the FBI. And she demanded an open casket to show that her baby was white and belonged to her husband. In 1970, Eastwood will star in Two Mules for Sister Sarah with Shirley MacLaine. Also, Kelly's Heroes with Donald Sutherland. Clint will receive news that his father, Clint Eastwood Sr., had passed away on July 22, 1970, at the age of 63, from a stroke and heart attack. In 71, Clint became a director in Play Misty for Me. Also in 1971, Eastwood will become a hard-nosed police inspector in Dirty Harry. On May the 22nd, 1972, Clint and Maggie will have their second child, a daughter, Allison. Allison will become an actress and fashion model in later life. And 2 years after Clint Sr.'s death, his mother, Margaret Ruth, will marry John Wood, a lumber executive. And that same year, he'll perform in Joe Kidd with Robert Duvall. In 73, it'll be High Plains Drifter with Godfrey Lewis and Verna Bloom. Also in 73, Clint will go back to a Dirty Harry sequel in Magnum Force with Hal Holbrook. In 1974, it will be Thunderbolt and Lightfoot with Jeff Bridges. By 1975, Eastwood will separate from Maggie and end his affair with Roxanne Tunis, and begin living with Sandra Locke while filming The Outlaw Josie Wells. It'll be the first of 6 movies that Clint will make with his girlfriend, Sandra Locke. Both Clint and Sandra were still married to others. In 1976, Eastwood will make The Enforcer with Ty Daly. In 1977, it'll be The Gauntlet with girlfriend Sandra Locke. And the next year, in 1978, it'll be Every Which Way But Loose, also with Locke. It'll be his biggest success to date. With Clint living with Sandra Locke, Maggie will file for legal separation, although a divorce will not finalize for 6 more years. Escape from Alcatraz will be based on fact about the 1962 actual escape. Eastwood will star with Patrick McGoohan. And in 1980, Eastwood and Sandra worked together in Bronco Billy. Also, Any Which Way You Can. In 1983, it'll be Sudden Impact, also with Locke. The next year, on the 19th of November 1984, Clint Eastwood and Margaret, or Maggie Johnson Eastwood, will divorce after 31 years of marriage and 2 children. 4 years earlier, in 1980, Maggie had begun a relationship with Henry Weinberg. They will marry the 6th of April 1985 and divorce 4 years later in August of 1989. It's been reported that Clint made a cash settlement with Maggie somewhere around $25 million. In 1986, Eastwood will go into politics and will be elected the mayor of Carmel, California. He will serve as mayor for 2 years until 1988. He said, "I have a strict gun control policy. If there's a gun around, I want to be the one that controls it." While still living with Sandra Locke, Eastwood will meet stewardess Jacqueline Reeves at the Hog's Breath Inn, a restaurant and bar that was owned by Clint. Jacqueline and Clint will have a son, Scott Reeves, on March the 21st, 1986, and also a daughter, Catherine, on February the 2nd, 1988. The next year after Catherine's birth, Sonia Locke files a palimony suit in 1989. There will finally be a settlement taking several years to reach an agreement. The amount is unknown. The next year after Locke files suit, actress Frances Fisher will move in with Clint in 1990. They had met in 1988 on the set of Pink Cadillac, but it will end in 1995, 5 years later. However, not before Frances and Clint will have a daughter, Francisca Fisher Eastwood, on August the 7th, 1993. The same year that Francisca was born, 62-year-old Clint Eastwood wins an Oscar for Best Director and Best Picture for Unforgiven. He will escort his mother, Margaret Ruth, to the Academy Awards ceremony. He was always close to his mother. Also the same year in 1993 that Clint received the Oscar and his daughter Francisca was born, and he was fighting a palimony suit with Sandra Locke, he will meet for the first time Dina Ruse, a local TV reporter and anchor for KSBW-TV in Monterey. She was assigned to do an interview with Clint Eastwood. Now they'll meet later again in Spanish Bay when they were attending the same function and will be seated together. Clint Eastwood and Dina will marry on March the 31st, 1996. It will be Eastwood's second marriage and her first. He was 65 and she was 30. On the 12th of December 1996, Clint and Dina will have a daughter, Morgan Eastwood. By this time, Eastwood and Dina will be living in his Pebble Beach home. In 1995, a year before Clint and Dina's marriage, he will star in a love story with Meryl Streep called The Bridges of Madison County. And on October the 12th, 1997, Clint Eastwood's friend, singer John Denver, will crash his plane into the Monterey Bay. It's believed that he only intended to fly for about 30 minutes and didn't put much fuel in his plane. While flying, he had forgot and decided to fly over and buzz his friend's home, Clint Eastwood, and run out of fuel on his way back to the airport. On the 25th of December 2001, Eastwood and Dina rushed to Canada, where they learned that a house fire where his 8-year-old daughter, Francisca, and her mother, Frances Fisher, barely escaped with their lives. They were there to thank neighbors for helping in the rescue. In 2005, Eastwood will once again win Best Picture and Best Director in the Academy Awards with $1 Million Baby. Eastwood again will take along his wife Dina and his 96-year-old mother to the awards. On February the 4th, 2006, Clint will lose his beloved mother, Margaret Ruth Eastwood Wood. Ruth was 97 years old. 2 years after Ruth's death, Clint will star and produce Gran Torino in 2008. His son Scott will be one of the cast. In June of 2012, Clint and Dina split and began using separate bedrooms. Dina will file for divorce in October of 2013. Things may have gotten worse after Dina and two of Eastwood's daughters, Francisca and Morgan, began a reality TV show called Mrs. Eastwood and Company. Dina becomes depressed and enters rehab. By December the 22nd, 1914, the couple were officially divorced after 17 years of marriage. On July the 1st, 2016, Dina will marry her high school sweetheart, basketball coach Scott Fisher. She seems happy. In 2014, Clint Eastwood will meet Christina Sandera. She was a hostess at Clint's Mission Ranch and Hotel and Restaurant in Carmel. She quickly moved into his multi-million-dollar home in Carmel. They seem happy, and it's been reported that Clint's children paid Christina one of the best compliments that can be paid in Hollywood. They said, "We like her, and she seems normal."